So, good morning, guys. It's me again, David Sarita Mandao. And now, we're going to create a vlog about Rule 19, conduct of vessels in restricted visibility. And I'm going to discuss and explain to you what it is. So, as always, we're going to look at the rule itself and apply the rule in couple of different situations. So, I hope you enjoy the video. So Rule 19, conducted vessel and restrictive visibility. Start right with the first paragraph. This rule applies to vessels not in sight of one another when navigating in or near an area of restricted visibility. So this sentence is kind of obvious. Needs to be restricted visibility, which is defined in Rule 3. Of course, but your own vessel doesn't need to be in it if you're approaching another vessel which is in restricted visibility. Rule 19 will still apply. Paragraph B. Start to talk about safe speed, which is actually covered in Rule 6. But paragraph B of Rule 19 reinforces it and says you need to proceed at a safe speed adapted to restricted vessels, and a power-driven vessel shall have our engines ready for immediate maneuver. So, it's one of the few rules that actually direct you exactly that you got to do with your engines. You need to be ready to maneuver immediately. So, paragraph C. Again, it's similar to paragraph B and just says you need to have due regard to restricted vessels when complying with the rules of Section 1. So not only are we talking about safe speed, but also talking about lookout risk of collision, action to avoid collision, narrow channels, and traffic separation schemes. Then, paragraph D, the actual action that we need to be taking a vessel which detects by radar alone the presence of another vessel. So, of course, we're using radar because we cannot see anything. You need to determine if a close quarter situation is developing and or if is risk of collision exists. There's not just risk of collision. If a close quarter situation is developing, this is what you need to do. You need to take avoiding action in ample time, provide that when such action consists of an alteration of course, so far as possible, the following shall be avoided. So saying if you're going to alter course, you need to try and avoid this. It doesn't tell you you cannot reduce speed. Indeed, a speed alteration, a reduction in speed that is might be the best course of action. But if you're going to alter course, you need to avoid the following. First, an alteration of course to port for a vessel forward of the beam other than for a vessel being overtaken. So it basically means you've got to come to starboard for a vessel forward of the beam unless you are overtaking them. And then the second part, an alteration, of course, towards a vessel, a beam or above the beam. So if there are bath bin on your port side, you need to alter away to them round to starboard. Above bin on the starboard side, you've got to alter away from them around to port. So let's have a look at a couple of examples. So this time we're going to be looking at radar plot because we cannot do a normal situation because we cannot see the other vessel. It's all going to be on the radar screen. So for size of reference, I'm going to divide our screen into 4 sections. Of course, everything forward of the beam is in the top 2 halves and everything about the beam is in the bottom 2 halves, right? So what happens if we detect a target out on the starboard side itself? It's forward of the beam and it's out to starboard. We got to make an alteration, of course, to starboard because we need to avoid an alteration, of course, to port. For a vessel forward of the beam, likewise, if it's out of port side, forward of the beam getting closer, still we got to alter our course to starboard because we need to avoid an alteration, of course, to port. And then if the target is astern, over this time out on the port quarter, again we'd alter away from it, so we need to avoid an alteration, of course, towards it. So we altered to starboard again, and then the final quarter out on the starboard quarter, it's getting closer to us. We need to alter away from it. So this time we're going to come around to port. So this is the only one where we actually come to port. The rest of them we need to come to starboard. So you can have a look at this together. Whenever the target is, unless it's out behind the beam on the starboard side, we need to alter our course to starboard. And if it's on our starboard quarter, we need to alter our course to port. Of course, the exception is if we're overtaking. So all this implies we have to do a radar plot. We need to determine everything, and if that tells us we are overtaking the vessel, then we're allowed to come to port for it if it's forward of the beam. So paragraph D has basically covered the action we need to take depending on where we detect the radar target. So paragraph A, then E goes on says, except where it determined that the risk of collision does not exist. So the only way we could determine that is if we done a radar plot. Every vessel which is apparently forward of her beam, a fog signal of another vessels. So if you hear a fog signal And remember, the ranges that we're talking about here, we're talking the very largest ships, only have range of 2 miles. And if they're sounding that signals once every minute, then it could have been a good amount of time and a good amount of distance between their last signal. When you first hear them, they could be well under 2 miles from you. And we're talking very large ships, or if you cannot avoid a close quarter situation with another vessel forwarded the beam, then you need to reduce your speed to the minimum which you can keep on your course. But you shall, if necessary, take all your way off and in any event navigate with extreme caution until danger of collision is over. So it says, first of all, reduce your speed to the minimum you can keep your course, and then, if necessary, stop. Don't just stop straight away. You didn't still need to be able to keep on your course, and you need and those you need still to able to make alteration, and it's only then that it is necessary you take all way off, but you've always got to navigate with extreme caution until danger of collision is over. And that brings us to the end of this Rule 19. I'm David Mandao. Thank you.